Good evening and welcome to the Vol Bros podcast. I'm Evan. This is my brother Rustin. We are two Vol Bros who are actually bros. It's a somber evening this evening in the Pierce households. However, uh, I believe both Pierce households are the biggest Notre Dame fans in the country for the next 2 hours, and we'll explain why here in just a little bit. We hope everybody lets us know your thoughts and comments. We are using a platform called StreamYard to go live. So if you want to submit a comment or a question, please do that. Just know it might ask you to approve for it to display your username and profile. Just know you don't have to do that. You can still do it anonymously, and we'll be able to answer it and show it on the screen as an anonymous submission too. So we're streaming live on Facebook and Twitter right now. If you're joining us on Twitter, StreamYard doesn't support comments on Twitter, but you can go ahead and comment on this post and we'll see it. It'll come through on my phone. Got my phone right here ready to roll too. So I've got 3 screens in front of me and a camera. So we're rocking and rolling, man. We're first class around here. Super, super pro stuff. So, first thing we're going to do, we're going to give our reactions to the game. Then we're going to try to get as many of your comments all throughout it as well. And then probably the most important thing for us this evening is we're going to talk about what has to happen for Tennessee to still make the playoff. So with that in mind, Rustin, what'd you think?
Unfortunately, the SEC is a line of scrimmage league, and we very much lost the line of scrimmage tonight. Jabari Small getting injured in the first quarter definitely didn't help things. I think we found out in the second half that Jabari Small is by far our best pass protection running back. Jalen Wright did not have a good night picking up blitzers. He about got Hendon Hooker killed twice. And then Dylan Sampson came in, and he might have been even worse.
I was about to ask if you noticed that in that last drive.
But I hope Jalen Wright was injured when Dylan was in there, because if we chose to put a true freshman in against one of the best defenses in the country on possibly the most important play in the entire game, I hope it was because of injury and not coach's decision. Because if that was coach's decision, that was maybe the worst decision of the entire season. But we only averaged 2 yards a carry. And you cannot win in the SEC averaging 2 yards a carry. It doesn't matter who you're playing. Maybe Vanderbilt or Missouri, but everybody else no. So it's a line of scrimmage league. It's a blocking physical league, and no matter how good your skill guys are, if you can't establish the run and you can't keep them off your quarterback, it's going to be a long night. And kudos to Georgia. They had a great game plan. They did what we kind of said they would do. They mixed things up. They learned from Nick Saban. They did not do what Alabama did. They mixed it up, coverages, half field zone, half field man, a lot of man under with 2 deep behind, and credit to their front four. The only way you can play a wide range of coverages in the back end is if your front four are holding their own and they don't need help. And so their front four did a heck of a job. It allowed them to do a lot of creative things in the secondary. Hendon clearly looked very confused several times, wasn't seeing guys coming open. He expected to come open. I would have liked to have seen him take off a lot more than he did. And I think when they go watch it back, he's going to realize he had a lot of opportunities. He could have easily been a 100-yard rusher tonight if he had just said, okay, they're not going to give me that, I'm just going to take off. But unfortunately, he tried to force a few balls. And for the first time in 2 years, he didn't look good. You hate to say that about him because you love the person. Hendon Hooker's a fantastic individual. And up until tonight, he's been a great decision maker. But he definitely got frustrated and he started forcing balls. The interception to Cedric Tillman was a horrible decision. He had guys open and he just decided he was going to go get a touchdown in that moment. He very much tried to make things happen rather than just taking what the defense was giving him.
Yep.
And, you go back and watch that film back, I think there's 2 or 3 times they could have had some big plays if he had just taken what he was given. And in a two touchdown game, 2 or 3 plays make a difference.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you mentioned that as 2 touchdowns, because that was one of my takeaways and my reactions too. Obviously, number one, nobody can deny this. Georgia just physically dominated the game. And you mentioned Hendon didn't look good this evening, and that's one question I want to pose to everybody watching this right now. And you can let us know in the comments. Like I said, if you're commenting on Facebook or something, StreamYard may ask you to display your username profile. You don't have to agree to that. You can still do it, and we can still see it. It'll just be anonymous. But one of the things that I think is an important question for this evening is Hendon Hooker still the front runner for the Heisman after tonight? You let us know what you think in the comments. I think he's certainly still a finalist. He's certainly still in New York, but is he still the front runner? That's a great question. And obviously the next 3 weeks have a lot to do with that too. Georgia physically dominated the game, no doubt about it. Second thing, obviously crowd noise played a role. So many false starts. Clearly, I mean, we didn't go to a silent count all night. We were still doing the clap, and man, that burned us so many times. Not only did the false starts kill us, but then even Gary Danielson said it on the podcast, or on the broadcast. They were timing up Hendon's clap, and they were coming that corner blitz. Man, they got it to him like 2 or 3 times. They were just timing it up, and we can't do that. But you made a good point. You said it was still only 2 touchdown game. Okay. As bad as Tennessee played, they were 2 passes away from a tie game. That pass to Brew McCoy. Brew had a step on that dude. He was open. If that ball's a step and a half more shallow than it was thrown, that's 6 right there. That's a touchdown right there. The overthrow to Princeton Fant. Princeton Fant had a step on that guy. He was by him. Would that have been 6? I don't know. It would have been a huge play for sure, but it could have been 6 if Princeton could outrun the dude. That's 2 passes right there. That's 14 points. It's a tie game. 2 passes. So as bad as Tennessee played, they were 2 passes away from a tie ball game in the second half. And that's, even when there was 7 minutes left and they're getting the ball still down big, there's no other offense in the country that can make up that amount of points that as quick as Tennessee. And kudos to Georgia, man. They just outcoached them, outplayed them. I mean, it was easily they displayed why they are the number 1 team in the country.
Yeah.
So
I don't blame Hendon for the missed throw on Brew. Hendon's not very tall, and he's he needs a little space in order to finish his throwing motion, and he got hit during his follow through on that ball, and that's what caused it to sail. He didn't really get a chance to finish his delivery. So the one to Brew, I don't really blame Hendon on. The one to Princeton, Hendon overthrew him, but honestly, I don't understand. I know that this coaching staff is an exceptional staff. I know that they have their thought processes of why they do the things they do, and they keep either Princeton Fant or Jacob Warren on the field at all times because they want to be able to switch a formation really quickly. They want to always have a tight end out there. But my goodness, Brew McCoy is a big, bad man. If we absolutely had to have a tight end out there and we were 4 wide with our 4 studs, Brew could probably handle a block for here and there.
That's true.
If Ramel Keaton, and they did this in the 4th quarter for like 2 plays, Brew moved into the slot, and they, for some reason, moved Princeton Fant out to the X. I don't understand. If Brew McCoy can move into the slot with Jalen Hyatt, why can't Ramel Keaton come in and be that other guy? If Ramel had been the other guy when that ball was overthrown on Princeton Fant, it's not overthrown because Ramel's 3 steps faster. It just baffles me.
That's right. Laura said their fan base was on fire as well. That's right. I mean, that's a good point. I think it was at least in the third quarter, we were up to 8 false starts. I don't know how many we ended with.
It finished with 8.
Oh, it did? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that is directly attributed. And I will say this, obviously that's a big deal with the fans being so loud. That clearly contributed to it. In the first quarter in particular, Georgia's defensive line movement contributed to 2 of them. So there was
it
multiple
shouldn't.
things.
It
You're right.
shouldn't. Kirby has stemmed since the dawn of time. That's Kirby's thing. They stem all the time, and I know our guys saw that on film 100 times, and Glenn Ellerby told them 100 times, these guys are going to stem at least once a possession. Hold your water, don't jump. And honestly, it was kind of how Hendon was reacting. I think some of it was the offensive line feeding off of Hendon, feeling like he had to press and make something happen, and they started pressing too. 8 false starts is not crowd noise. 3 or 4 false starts is crowd noise. The other 4 is all up here. We're all freaking out a little bit. Our quarterback's freaking out a little bit, so we're gonna not have great discipline. And if that guy over there moves a little bit, I'm jumping and firing out. And it became very mental. It was mostly psychological in the second half.
Well, like I said, Laura's right. I mean, that was a good point. I'm glad she commented. Thank you, Laura. She's right. That crowd noise was a serious contributor. So let's talk about this question. And please let us know in the comments what you think. This is our question for the evening here. Is Hendon still the Heisman favorite after this evening? What do you think?
Well, based on the way Bryce Young is playing right now, maybe. Alabama looked awful in the first half, and Bryce looked like a below-average quarterback making really bad decisions. And they're still down to LSU in the third quarter. I mean, honestly, Ohio State fans are going to make a case for C.J. Stroud, but I'm sorry. You beat Northwestern 21-7, and you're down at the half. You have no business even talking.
Yeah, C.J. Stroud had more rushing yards than passing yards today. Yeah. And I think it wasn't like 100 something rushing yards and 100 something, but no, I think he had 79 rushing yards and 72 passing yards.
I mean, at the end of the day, if they truly want to go by who's the best player in the country on the best team, it might be Stetson Bennett.
Yeah.
I mean, that dude, every opportunity he has in a big game, he makes the most of his opportunities.
He just makes plays.
Tough to beat.
Absolutely. Caleb Newsom said, no, Hendon is not the favorite anymore. Laura said, still in the running. Totally agree. Will depend on if they hold it together in the next couple of games to finish out the season. Totally agree. I 100% agree with that. I think he's absolutely still in New York as a finalist. I think these next 3 weeks are going to play a big, big role. And if he is the winner. Now, I will say this about C.J. Stroud. I understand, it was like a monsoon at Northwestern today. And so clearly I'm sure that impacted his ability to throw the ball. But come on, I mean, you can't be a quarterback.
7.
Yeah, exactly. And he only had 72 passing yards against them. Like, in my opinion, even though they won today was a step back for C.J. Stroud and his Heisman candidacy.
So, honestly, if the committee is truly looking at the eye test, which the first rankings kind of said they were,
absolutely,
nothing about today should have impressed them. Yeah. And it's getting real interesting. Michigan's currently losing to Rutgers at the half. Texas is obliterating Kansas State right now, which makes that Texas TCU matchup real interesting.
Bingo! I was about to talk about that.
and Clemson still down 14 to Notre Dame in the third quarter.
Go Irish! Go! What's the or something to old Notre Dame? I don't know the first part.
It's the Michigan fight song, and they changed the words around. Who
there
cares?
You go. That's right. Man, go Irish! Tear it up, fellas! Tear it up! Go beat them Tigers. All right. So, next question: what has to happen for UT to make the playoff? Now, I have a graphic for this because I thought about this ahead of time. What has to happen for UT to make the playoff? Obviously, there are a ton of different things that can happen for them to get in. But if this scenario that I'm going to put on the screen here, if this happens, wait, I added in an extra word there. I'll fix it. So what has to happen for UT? Now we got the right sentence for UT to make the playoff. Here's if this, what I'm about to put on the screen, if this happens, then they're in. They have to win out convincingly. They have to. Bama and LSU needs to be close. I'll explain that in a minute. TCU and Clemson have to lose. Georgia needs to beat Bama in the SEC championship, or LSU if LSU ends up beating Bama tonight. All right, so here's why I say those four things. Number one, they have to convincingly win every game from here on out. Hey, let's not pretend as though the playoff committee isn't comprised of humans who can also suffer from recency bias, just like anybody. And I think we've seen that even in rankings in the past years. There is a recency bias at the end of the season. Okay. If Missouri, South Carolina, and Vanderbilt get smoked by Tennessee the next 3 weeks, and that offense looks like it has for the rest of up until tonight, yeah, that's going to be a big factor on the playoff committee's mindset about Tennessee. I genuinely feel sorry for Missouri, South Carolina, and Vanderbilt because it is not Heupel's fault, but he is going to be forced to run up the score as much as he possibly can on both of them, all three of them. That's
I don't
not
think
his.
It's going to be hard.
Well, I agree totally. But he has no choice at this point. He has to win those games literally by 50. Okay, like he has to win those by as many points as possible to put that in the mind of the playoff committee, because there's going to be 1 week at least where they don't get to see Tennessee play, and we don't want it to be an out of sight, out of mind kind of situation. So you want to make just an overwhelming at poor Vanderbilt at the end of the year. Oh my goodness. They're going to score 75 or 80 points on Vanderbilt. Those poor fellas, it's not going to be pretty.
I tell you might see a repeat of last year's Missouri game next Saturday, because I really like what I heard our players saying post game. They were already snapping clear. Every one of them came into the press conference saying, wasn't our best. We got a lot to clean up. On to next week. And that's a level of maturity that hasn't been there in a really long time.
And I think that comes from Hendon Hooker and Heupel, but Hendon Hooker's mindset, the way he leads that locker room, that's what was so surprising about tonight.
Yep.
So the second thing I had on there was that Bama and LSU needs to be close. I don't care who wins. I think it might end up being better for Tennessee if Bama wins, but whichever one of them wins, it needs to be close. It may be better actually if LSU does, because Bama would fall and LSU move up.
Either one helps Tennessee's strength of schedule.
Absolutely, as long as it's close. Like if it's a close game, then that shows that number 10 ranking for LSU was deserved, and all of a sudden that makes that Tennessee win over LSU at Death Valley even more impressive. And so,
I just don't see the committee ever letting a 2-loss team in the playoff.
Oh, I agree totally.
And LSU already has 2.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So if they hold on and beat Bama tonight, I don't think it matters what happens at the SEC championship game.
Well, that's fair. Would that if hypothetically if Clemson wins out and either Ohio State or Michigan wins out, I got theories going, like that little meme of the dude with all the mathematical equations. It's all going through my head right now, all the different scenarios we could see.
I think if LSU beats Alabama tonight, the SEC championship's meaningless.
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. That's a really good point. TCU and Clemson need to lose. That is something that needs to happen. We know now it was interesting. We just like you mentioned, clearly we saw this week that strength of schedule and the eye test was a huge factor in the committee's rankings. But we also know, even from their own words, when the playoff first started, they put high value on conference championships. They said that when the playoff started. So if there's an undefeated Big 12 champion, an undefeated ACC champion, an undefeated Big 10 champion, it's going to be very difficult for them to keep them out of the playoff. So TCU and Clemson have to lose. Go Irish, go, 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 go. I don't know the words. So please, Notre Dame, continue to win. We need them to win.
Still up 14 in the third.
I'm loving it. I'm loving it. TCU won today. They've had a noon game. They won today. But TCU's schedule coming up is not easy.
Yeah.
They go to Texas next week, and then they go to Baylor the week after that. They're not making it out of both those games undefeated. I'm sorry. That's not happening. They're going to lose one of the two of them. So,
well, they really shouldn't have won today. They had to make a fourth quarter comeback to win today. They were down to Texas Tech today.
That's been their MO. They get down every game, it seems like, and then they come back. Let's see. Fourth thing I said, well, actually, you made a good point. If LSU wins tonight, then my fourth thing that was on there doesn't matter.
Yep.
But if Alabama wins tonight, then my fourth thing matters.
Yep.
Georgia's got to beat Alabama. They have to. If Alabama beats Georgia, that especially if TCU and Clemson both finish undefeated, if Alabama beats Georgia in the SEC championship game, that effectively eliminates Tennessee from the playoff. So Clemson's got to lose tonight. Come on, Notre Dame. TCU has to lose next week at Texas, or the week after that at Baylor. Sick 'em Bears. Like, go get them, guys. So there is still a chance Tennessee gets into the playoff, but it is not like some people were saying, like it was an easier path for them to get in the playoff if they lose tonight. No, I'm sorry. No, you never want to relinquish control over your own destiny. You don't want to do that. No one. I mean, that's so that wasn't a good take. All the people that were saying that wasn't a good take. We obviously you just want to win out, because now there's all these other dominoes that have to happen that you have no control over in order for you to get in the playoff. Isn't it awesome that we're talking about Tennessee potentially being in the college football playoff 18 or 9, however many months removed from 35
20
players leaving?
Yep. Well,
I mean, that's awesome.
Just the fact that we're talking about, I mean, let's be real. South Carolina, Missouri, and Vandy are not going to give us a game. Those three have become the dregs of the SEC. So, we're finishing 11-1.
Yep.
If you had asked anyone in August, where is Tennessee going to finish? Nobody was saying better than 10-2, and most were saying 9-3. I was one of the ones saying 10-2. I thought we'd lose to Georgia and Alabama.
That's what I said too.
So the fact that we snuck up and got Bama means we're way ahead of schedule.
Absolutely.
And, all we can control is what we can control. We can finish 11-1. I do think craziness will happen. I think the committee, as every year, the committee will end up in a bind and have to make crazy decisions.
Yep.
And who knows? The battered Vols syndrome says we're going to be the loser in the crazy decisions, but everything else this year has gone the other way. So
I know, isn't it crazy?
Why would we think it's going to be different?
It's like the Twilight Zone, man.
Yeah.
I was like, why has everything been going our way until tonight? Like tonight was the first. It was bizarre.
Even tonight wasn't a typical battered Vols syndrome loss. We just got beat up by a much more physical, better team.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it comes down to. And there wasn't some crazy thing that happened that cost us the game. There wasn't some bizarre penalty that changed the entire complexion. It was just a hard-fought physical game, and we were the less physical team.
And we were still 2 passes away from a tie ball game.
Yeah.
I mean, 2 passes. That's it. You just turned purple. I don't know how that happened.
I don't either.
That's pretty cool, though. You're cheering for LSU. That's what. Of course, that's what I mean. That's what that means. Of course, absolutely. Go Tigers. Just so everybody knows, you can find us anywhere on social media. Well, as long as you look on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, you can find us at the Vol Bros on all of those platforms. And hey, I don't want to be letting the cat. Actually, I do. That's what I'm telling you. Cat out of the bag here. Go Tigers! First of all, I was working on a website for us last night. It's pretty sweet. I'm just saying, it's coming, and we're going to get to live stream it too. So we got a lot of stuff in the works, man. It's a cool little, it's a fun thing. This is just fun. We really do appreciate everybody joining us tonight. Rustin, you got any last parting thoughts for us?
No, just the 11-1 is a great season.
Absolutely.
And if we end up in the Sugar Bowl as the number 3 SEC team, wonderful. If we end up, crazy stuff happens and we end up in the playoff, either one of those, we are way ahead of schedule. And there's a lot of second-year coaches in this country who would love to be sitting where Tennessee is.
Oh my goodness, yes. That is a fantastic point. Fantastic point. Well, hey, we appreciate everybody joining us tonight on Facebook and Twitter. Hey, remember, set your clocks back tonight. We get to sleep an extra hour tonight. It's going to be awesome. So thank you all so much for joining us. Please come find us on YouTube at the Vol Bros. Join us on Twitter. And we look forward to seeing everybody next time that we're together. Have a great evening, everybody.